After yet another day of strong polling, data guru Nate Silver now, for the first time, has Kamala Harris ahead of Donald Trump, and the forecast points in the right direction for the Democratic nominee. Let's discuss. I'm Dave Aronberg, state attorney for Palm Beach County, aka the Florida lawman, here on the MeidasTouch network. So Nate Silver, who is a big data guy, you remember his site 538, which he no longer has. He has his own gig going on. He had been coming under a lot of criticism for projecting Donald Trump as the very likely winner of the election. He was down on the Democrats' chances, and even after Vice President Harris got in the race, it still was a long shot, according to Nate Silver, but the data has shifted, and Nate Silver has recognized it. And I know people thought that he was biased because he has done some business with Peter Thiel, but now he's saying that Kamala Harris has the lead and is more likely than Donald Trump to win the election. So let's take a look. According to the Daily Beast, Silver's model, which compiles the results of statewide polls and weights them based on reliability, showed Trump polling ahead of the Democratic candidate for most of July, including during the weeks immediately after President Joe Biden dropped out of the race. Harris began to lead the former president on July 31st, according to the data published on Sunday. Harris now leads Trump with 45.5% of the expected vote, compared to Trump's 44.1%. According to Silver's calculations, Harris now has a 50.5% chance to win the general election, compared to Trump's 48.8%. Harris also now has a 65.9% chance to win the popular vote, but the predicted elector share remains close, with the vice president only beating Trump by about 18 votes in the Electoral College. Now, keep in mind, this is before Harris made her vice presidential pick. This is clearly before the Democratic National Convention, both of which will give the vice president a clear bump in the polls, in addition to what she has already. The momentum will continue. She will, in my mind, extend her lead over Donald Trump, because you haven't even had the convention yet, which normally gives the candidate a big bump. And Trump is still coming off his convention, which is still probably his high mark, even though he really messed up in his pick of J.D. Vance. By the way, I was one of the individuals who had bought Hillbilly Elegy long before J.D. Vance ever thought about, well, ever ran for office. Apparently, he had always thought about it. And now I want my money back, because the person who wrote that book is clearly not the same person who is a candidate for vice president. Clearly not the same person who has decided to lick Donald Trump's boots. It's embarrassing, but you know, that's what happens when you're a party of one. You have to pay homage to the leader. Well, on the Democratic side, a big reason that Kamala Harris has jumped out to a lead in the polls and now leads in Nate Silver's survey is because she has brought the Democratic coalition together. And here's some very interesting information about that. When it comes to black registered voters, Kamala Harris is doing much better than Joe Biden did. In a recent CBS News poll, the question was asked, would their policies help black people? And according to the poll, 80% said Harris's policies would, whereas Trump's policies only got 20%. When it comes to enthusiasm, according to the same CBS News poll, 74% of black registered voters now say they will definitely vote, compared to 58% just a couple weeks ago. According to the same poll, Harris now has levels of support among black voters that is closer to what Mr. Biden had in 2020 and higher than Mr. Biden was getting in polling this year. Harris versus Trump now, 81% to 18%. Biden versus Trump back in July, 73% to 24%. In fact, as reported in a previous video on MeidasTouch, in a recent poll in Michigan, crucial swing state, Donald Trump was polling at 0% of the black vote. Zero. I've never seen anything like that before. And although it doesn't get any worse than 0%, you got to believe that the enthusiasm for Kamala Harris and her poll numbers amongst black voters will continue to improve as Donald Trump continues to make the campaign about her identity and her supposedly being fake about her heritage and her ethnicity and her race. I mean, absolutely astonishing that that's the line of attack that they're going with. I mean, this is, of course, birtherism 2.0. It didn't work against President Barack Obama. It's not going to work against Kamala Harris. According to pollster Ben Lazarus, who's with Target Smart, he has a really interesting anecdote that he published about how bad things are going now for Trump. Been in focus groups with black voters in swing states last 2 weeks. Groups were originally organized as Biden voters, Trump voters, and undecided/third-party voters. Groups usually take 2 to 3 weeks to recruit, and in the days leading up to the sessions, we do confirmation calls. 2 days before the black Trump voter group, my recruiter reaches out to me in a mild panic. Confirmation calls were not going well, and the group was falling apart. Of the 7 black Trump voters versus Biden we originally recruited just 2 weeks earlier, 3 had to bail because they were now supporting Harris. We all know better than to generalize qual findings, but this remarkable problem is not one I've ever encountered in 15 plus years polling. It's only going to get worse after Trump's meltdown in front of the national black journalists. This whole campaign that he's waging against Kamala Harris, I think, is going to only offend minority voters even more. And you know, things are getting desperate over at Team Trump. They see the polls, and they decided to respond to them by denying them. This is after pushing every poll that showed him in the lead for the past several months. But now, all of a sudden, there's poll denialism. That's what happens when you're on the other side of the polls. You know, hey, don't believe what you see and hear, believe me, right? Well, Trump is saying through his campaign advisor, now as this analysis shows, they'll even put a finger on the scale of polling to inflate results for her. This analysis is why the American people are seeing through it and will not allow this national gaslighting campaign to win, despite this manipulated result from CBS YouGov. It's worth noting that in July and August of 2020, their data showed Biden leading by 10 nationally. Okay. So they're going back to saying, hey, the polls were wrong about Biden beating Trump 4 years ago. They were wrong. Last time I checked, Biden did defeat Trump. So I don't think it's a good example to say, aha, the pollsters said that Biden would win 4 years ago, and he did win. And he won by a large electoral college victory. So if that's where they're going, they're in a lot of trouble. And so I don't think they were really prepared for Kamala Harris, which is my greatest surprise in all this. I mean, you would think that the Republican Party would have at least had a plan B, but it looks like they did not. They were caught flat-footed, and she has done so many things right since she stepped up.
But the school administration stopped us from getting another 500, 600, even 1,000 people in. Thousands of people were told no, and that was okay, but we could have fit another 600 people. So I don't know anything about the school. I don't know anything about this school, but they could have allowed more people. You got people standing outside. Look at all the people outside. They could have come in. They could have come in. So we're not happy. Hello out there.
And now things are looking good, Midas Mighty. I mean, wow, what a difference a few weeks make. It's going in our direction to save our democracy, but ultimately the only poll that matters is the one that happens in November. So that is the latest. I'm Dave Aronberg, aka the Florida Lawman, here on the MeidasTouch Network. If you like this video, please like and leave a comment below. I love reading your comments. And check out our sister channel, True Crime MTN, where we cover all the hot true crime cases that don't make it here on the main MeidasTouch Network. So check me out over there, and I'll see you here next time.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.